Good afternoon. I am Ladina Bolton, your Super District 7 Commissioner, as well as the Chair of ERPS, the Employee Relations and Public Safety Committee. Also on this committee with me is Commissioner Shakira Johnson and Commissioner Marita Davis Johnson, and we are welcoming our fellow commissioners, Commissioner Patrick and Commissioner Terry. We do not have a very long agenda today, which is great because we are getting started just a bit late. But we're going to go ahead and jump right in with item 2026-0215, which are the minutes for the January 6th meeting. Do we have a motion for that item?
Yes, ma'am. I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. And we're going to jump down into the new agenda items. We'll come back to the presentation. We will have one from our animal shelter regarding the operations audit. So moving down where we are going to jump into our fire rescue items, item 2025-1708, all commission districts. This is a ratification of Sourcewell contract number 10424 VKN. Firefighting PPE and related equipment cleaning for use by the Department of Fire Rescue. This request seeks to ratify the purchase from the competitively let Sourcewell contract for the provision of 65 tri-certified Viking Shield gear to be used by firefighters throughout the county. Awarded to Viking Life Saving Equipment, care of Central Alabama Training Solutions, amount not to exceed $110,175. How you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, you read all of that, and we're asking for that item to be withdrawn.
Oh, okay. No problem.
So we ready for a motion?
Yes, go ahead with
I
the,
move to withdraw item ending in 1708.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on.
And can I ask why it's being withdrawn?
She's coming back.
Commissioner, that item was mistakenly added. It wasn't actually vetted, so you never should have seen that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? No? Okay. Moving on to Board of Commissioners, District 1. This is item 2026. Actually, but before we get to that one, we're going to move into the contract. Human Resources and Merit System. This is item 2025-1513, all commission districts. A request for proposals number 2024-100007 for temporary personnel services, a four-year multi-year contract for use by all DeKalb County departments through the Department of Human Resources and Merit System, consists of the provision of part-time and full-time temporary personnel positions for DeKalb County on an as-needed basis. Recommend award to the highest scoring proposers who are responsive and responsible, which include Trifacta, Open Work, and 22nd Century Technologies. Total amount not to exceed $30 million. And with this item in particular, in our last committee meeting, if you remember, we did approve it out of committee, but I did request that we come back just so I can ask a few questions because not realizing that that's what we were communicating about, I just wanted a little bit more understanding. And one of the questions that had come up for me is when on the scorecard or the scoring system that you use, my understanding was that if it was a MSA versus DeKalb, it was only a 5-point or 10-point difference. But looking at it, I saw maybe there was 8 points awarded somewhere, 2 points awarded somewhere else. Can you just kind of share how that ranking is determined?
Yes, Commissioner. So per the county's ordinance, if you are utilizing an LSBE DeKalb, you are awarded 10 points under an RFP. If you're using an LSBE MSA, you're awarded 5 points if you're using. If you are demonstrating good faith efforts, you are awarded 2 points. And if you're using a mix, those points are prorated. So that's likely why you see maybe an 8.75, that's a prorated. There's one there for 2, which means good faith efforts. And then anyone, whether it's through their own designation or their LSBE designation, if it's an LSBE DeKalb, you'll see a 10, and if it's an LSBE MSA that they're using, it's a 5.
And when you say if it's mixed, then that's when you get into those numbers in between. Is it specifically ranked to say you have 2 versus 3 or 1 or whatever the number is, then specifically you can associate that with a number, or are we guesstimating the numbers in between?
No, there's a formula that's used to get those prorated points, and it's based on what the max points are, along with the percentage that they're going to be used. I have to go get the specific points to read it off to you, but there is a formula for prorating.
Okay. And with that formula, if at any time I'm not going to say at any time, I don't know exactly when this would occur, but if there is a change in status, would the scorecard account for that?
No, because the status is dependent on the submission at the time the solicitation closes. So if you decide to change after the fact, we don't go back and change that. That wouldn't be fair.
Okay, thank you. Those are all of the questions that I had. So I'm not sure if any of the other commissioners, if I sparked any questions for you guys, but Commissioner Johnson, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you for that explanation and that further discussion. I appreciate it. I was trying to remember, was this an item that we had a substitute that lowered the amount, though?
Yes.
So it should have, what's showing right now is still the 30 million, but I believe it was 24?
Yes, so the substitute reflects 24, but the item as it was originally submitted, that doesn't change on your items. You just get the updated pieces of paper.
Gotcha. So when moving forward, the next time it comes before a voting meeting, we would have to do the substitute again.
Yes.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
I did have one more question. I think you just sparked it when you asked the question. I recall that one of these you said specialized, maybe in IT, and then some of the others, they do general assignments. When we get institutions that specialize, when they are ranked against the ones that do general assignments, I guess ultimately what I'm trying to get to is, do they have to score as high since they specialize in specific assignments as opposed to those that do general placement?
So the scoring in any solicitation is going to be based on the scope of work and the development of the scoring criteria before it's advertised. In this particular solicitation, I'm actually going to defer to the user department because that's who indicated that Trifecta was specialized in IT, and they have a better idea about how they allocated who was going to do what and why.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Commissioner Bolton, as you stated, Trifecta does specialize in IT. They were not rated higher because of that.
Okay. But they don't, if, say, they're the only one that submit amongst the group who does that, they don't necessarily have to rank as high as some of those who do general placements because of their specialization, is that right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
understood. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? All right, thank you so much. Do we have a motion for this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Approve the substitute all over
Yeah.
again? Okay.
Approve the substitute.
Your second still stands?
Second stands.
All in favor?
Aye.
All righty, thank you for that. So we're going to jump back up to Board of Commissioners, District 1, Item 2026-0195, all commission districts. This is a joint policy statement to address the chronic issue of illegal scrap tire dumping. And did we have a substitute the last time we spoke? I can't recall.
I don't believe so, but I believe.
Oh, it was
Mr.
the joint, was it the joint statement we were discussing? Okay, do we have an update for that?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for your time today. The agenda item that you have in front of you provides the joint policy statement that was discussed at the last ERPS committee. That was the substitute for a different item at the time. What has been provided was based off the request from you all to have staff come back with a separate agenda item regarding the joint policy statement, while we also seek solutions from the code and, other mechanisms to address illegal scrap tire dumping countywide. So it's a yes and conversation. So this joint policy statement should be in your agenda packet right now. And what it does is, just reiterating what we discussed at the last committee meeting, provide a document that has guiding pillars that the governing authority, the Board of Commissioners, Chief Executive Office, and departments will work together on as guiding principles to help us address this issue collectively. So there's three main pillars. One is focused on a united front on legislative advocacy. Two, a strategic resource allocation, aligning county resources and expertise to proactively address environmental blight and address and restore those affected areas. And then number three, that pillar number three, is enhancing accountability and stakeholder collaboration across our local, regional, state partners, et cetera. So again, that's the gist of the joint policy statement, agreeing that we acknowledge this issue as a countywide, regional, statewide issue, and that we will work collectively to address it.
Okay. I would just like to say, with the joint policy statement, I would like to see that brought back with a different agenda item. I think this is item number. I think this is the item number for Commissioner Patrick's original.
So this, Commissioner Patrick's original legislation is farther down on your agenda. This is a brand new agenda item that we're discussing right now. So the joint policy statement is 2026-0195. This is, again, to fulfill your request to bring a separate agenda item. So this is the separate agenda item right now.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So with that being said, do we have any questions or comments from committee members?
I would like to hear from Commissioner Patrick since he was introducing the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The policy statement, I think, as a policy statement, covers sort of all of the angles, the legislative front, talking about resource allocation, of course, at the local level, and then also that idea of collaboration. DeKalb County can come up with a fantastic ordinance to address the tire issue. However, unless we're collaborating with our municipalities as well as our surrounding jurisdictions outside of DeKalb County, I don't think it'll be as effective as what it can be. And as we've spoken with staff and amongst ourselves up here, there is a code review component, there is a state legislative component, and then there's going to be that strategic component where we're engaging, as I said, with our different partners throughout the metro area. So from my perspective, this right here is a fantastic way to address sort of the overall strategy and goal, the policy, to achieve that.
All right, awesome. Commissioner Terry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm good with this joint policy statement. I do want to caution us to not confuse a policy statement with making policy.
Correct.
One of the things that we added to another agenda item that was basically a joint policy statement was we asked the administration to come back with a plan. Because what we, I think, discussed at the committee and then afterwards with CO Williams is that the administration needs to come up with a strategy to enforce the existing ordinance. I think we acknowledged from CO Williams that the administration wants the Public Works Director to still be in charge of enforcing the tire registry, the tire manifest compliance situation. So if it's going to stay in Public Works, what we really need is for the administration to come back in 3 months to say, here's how we're going to actually implement and enforce the existing ordinance. I think between me and Robert and Zach, there was a good idea, I think from Zach actually said, well, what maybe the alcohol licensing team, and that structure of how they manage that process could be akin to managing the scrap tire manifest. Because again, like if we go to a dump site and there's tires and we can track back where they came from, now we are getting, but if we don't even have manifest, don't even have a way to audit anything, we're just not going to be able to go back and enforce the actual ordinance. We're just going to be cleaning things up. So I might suggest maybe a friendly amendment to this for the committee to consider is just, let's ask the administration to come back within a certain number of, days with a more concrete strategy. Funding, would be a good time to discuss that now on how we enact the policy statement. Thank you.
I think that was a really good point, Commissioner Terry. And with that in mind, I do want to hear from the administration. I was looking to see if anyone from Planning or Code was here, or Public Works, essentially. But considering that recently there was a request from Planning to extend the implementation of the STR because of all of the departments that were involved and all of the different components that needed to be addressed, I'd like to hear from you what a realistic timeline would be so that we're not in another predicament to where when we expect you guys to come back and share what you've come up with, that you're actually prepared and able to do so.
Yes, Madam Chair, what I would propose is having the administration come back with a report on June, the first meeting in June, in terms of our implementation strategy. I would fully anticipate that between now and then, there will be a number of key initiatives that will have began. But, I think given about, 4.5 months or 4 months really, it will give us sufficient time to create some momentum. So that's what I would propose.
Okay, I'm amenable to the friendly amendment that was recommended to put that timeline, which was suggested to be the first meeting in June. If there are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Patrick?
I just want to add, I think that's a great idea. Thank you for adding that in, Commissioner Terry. It's always good to have that follow-up. This is sort of the high-minded goals, but the follow-up on how things are coming through is appropriate. So thank you for that recommendation.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Johnson.
So just to clarify, first meeting in June, so you would come to the first ERPS meeting in June? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
got it. Understood. Thank you.
All right, so do we have a motion for that item?
Motion to approve that item with the friendly amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries for recommendation with the amendment of the first meeting in June. All right, so moving on to the last item on the agenda before our presentation from our guests. This is Board of Commissioners listed as District 3, but I understand that District 5 is a co-sponsor. Yeah, this is a District 1 item, and District 5 is a co-sponsor to this item. This is 2025-0683. It's an item to approve a resolution to address egregious littering and the illegal dumping of scrap tires. All right, so
Okay, good afternoon again, Commissioners. Understanding we've got 30 minutes total left in committee and another presentation. I'm going to try to zoom through. The request is to discuss the state aspects of the scrap tire apparatus and the legislation involved as such. I believe firmly that when we address this, not only from a local perspective or a regional perspective, but understand the code and the regulation that is put in place from a state level that sets the tone for how local governments can move, then we have a strong knowledge base of what we can and what we cannot accomplish when it comes to our local approaches. When we previously had this presentation in committee, we discussed all the other aspects prior to the state legislative aspect. So we discussed tire dumping in general, the negative effects of such at the local level, what our local approach is currently, what that local environment is from a private perspective as well as a public perspective when we see illegal dumping on sites. We discussed the original ordinance draft from Commissioner Patrick, which is for Chapter 22, Article 4 of the County Code, and staff's proposed changes. That is an iterative process, and the two documents you have in front of you address, one, the presentation in front of you, but also the latest draft of some red line code revisions after conversations that we've had with a few members of the administration as well as a few commissioners. We also discussed our local recommendations and considerations, the regional approach briefly, and let me get into the state legislative aspect. And before I do, I really want to kind of level set from a Georgia EPD scrap tire transportation manifest system, because this is the form that serves as the official scrap tire tracking document that the major players in the scrap tire enforcement apparatus utilize. So there are one, scrap tire generators. For layman's terms, kind of like our retailers in the scrap tire network who purchase their tires from major distributors or receive them on a used basis. There are roughly 150 of those within DeKalb County that are EPD permitted within the state that rest within DeKalb County. We also have scrap tire generators. So ideally, scrap tire generators should be sending a report to the scrap tire carriers who will log the amount of tires that they utilize, that they have, and then push those over to the processing facility. So scrap tire carriers, there's 15 of those that are EPD permitted within DeKalb County from the state. And then thirdly are the end users or the processing facilities. There's 5 of those statewide, one in the Metro Atlanta area, and that is currently Liberty Tire. So from a statewide perspective, the state law that mandates Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Act is under Title 12, Chapter 8, Section 40.1 of the state code, and that's dedicated to regulating scrap tire management within the state. So one of the key aspects, and there's several aspects of that, but here are some of the keys. There's a $1 fee that's imposed on the sale of every single new tire, every new replacement tire in the state of Georgia, which funnels up into a solid waste trust fund that is used for major county cleanups and local cleanups that we see here in places like DeKalb County. In 2024, our trust fund fact in state fiscal year 2024, $8.9 million was collected from the tire distributors as part of that tire management fee, which again feeds into that trust fund. So counties like DeKalb County, and we'll discuss in a little bit, are able to be reimbursed for the costs related to cleanup, mass tire cleanup, up to $75,000 per year. So we'll discuss some of those parameters. Generators are also required to obtain an EPD ID number, as well as maintain manifest records, keep those on hand for a period of, I believe, 3 years at a time. Scrap tire carriers are also required to obtain carrier permits from the state. However, businesses may also transport their own scrap tires to an EPD-approved processor, sorter, or end user without a carrier permit. So that's kind of how it works on the high level. And there's approximately 9 million scrap tires that are generated annually. Scrap tire abatement reimbursement grant, the STAR grant, as it's colloquially called, that's a program administered by the state to financially assist local jurisdictions like DeKalb County with safe abatement and recycling of illegally dumped scrap tires. It's a program that we are proudly utilizing, but we also see that there are some gaps for larger jurisdictions like DeKalb County. Our cleanup efforts are often over that threshold, and $75,000 isn't quite enough for some of our metro areas, especially those who operate our own landfills. Again, that STAR grant is funded by the State Solid Waste Trust Fund, and it covers the cost of removing, transporting, and processing tires collected from right-of-way cleanups, tire amnesty events, local abatement projects, et cetera. There's been over $3 million, $4 million nearly, to local governments for the removal of passenger tire equivalents statewide since the grant began in 2016. And again, that limit is $75,000 per local government. But the issue that we're facing in DeKalb, Metro Atlanta in general, and many other counties across the state is there's a higher burden for the abatement of large-scale tire removal projects. If you look at the news today, every week it seems there's another jurisdiction that's being plagued by this issue. So it's not just a countywide issue, or not just a regional issue, but also a state issue, and I wouldn't doubt a national issue as well. So local authority limitations in fines and penalties. I want to reiterate that all violations of a county ordinance are currently classified as misdemeanors. All right, so according to State Code 15, regarding violations of county ordinances, the punishment imposed for any ordinance violation shall not exceed a fine of $1,000 or 6 months imprisonment or both. Those are for violations of individual county code. Any updates to this authority, including increasing jail time and different aspects or punishments, those updates rest exclusively with the state legislative body. We've had a number of conversations with some of our lawmakers here in DeKalb who also attest to this. However, while these limitations exist, the state may also prosecute in cases of illegal dumping. So that brings us into dual sovereignty. There's a dual sovereignty principle between local and state bodies. So in addition to actions filed by DeKalb for violations of this ordinance, the state government can step in, file grievances, take folks to court, take businesses to court, et cetera, issue punishments. And that's laid out in Title 16 of the code, which covers penalties for unlawful dumping. So it essentially says any person who intentionally dumps egregious litter shall be guilty of a felony. Upon conviction thereof, shall not be fined more than $25,000 for each violation, or imprisonment for not more than 5 years for each individual violation. So that's the code from a state perspective in that apparatus, and we're trying to work within that. Part of what the Board of Commissioners has done is request the State General Assembly through your legislative agenda that you passed a few months ago to review those fines and penalties that are allowable by local governments. So right now, currently in your legislative packet that is being sent to our DeKalb delegation for their review and consideration is to request the General Assembly amend Title 12 of the code to enhance local government funding of tire waste cleanup reimbursements for all the projected costs associated with the tire cleanup in those hard to reach areas, ravines, et cetera, some of the issues that we're seeing right now in DeKalb County. Within that, we're asking the state to permit reimbursement to support municipalities within counties when service delivery is governed by an existing IGA. We're also asking the state to authorize increased funding for counties with populations with over 500,000 people, as well as allowing counties the ability to increase fines, penalties, et cetera, on individuals and businesses, commercial entities who are illegally dumping egregious waste. So that's where we are from a state legislative perspective. That's already in your packet. One of the things that staff would also love to see is the state convene a study committee to bring all these partners together in a relevant, time-bound, focused space where we bring together all the state agencies, local governments, tire handling businesses, scrap tire generators, processors, courts. There's a lot of players here. So we're experiencing that not only on the local level where we're bringing in folks for several different conversations related to their shop, but also from a statewide perspective. So in a nutshell, that's the state apparatus. The second document you have in front of you are some red line code revisions. Staff would request you all to take a look at those code revisions. I would love to schedule some time to speak with you all, continue our discussions offline on that. I would love to speak about pages 1 through 5 in public, and then pages 6 and 7 related to violations and penalties after we've had more of a robust conversation at the state level and, get some of our courts involved, maybe, district attorney's office or magistrate court, et cetera, who would have some input to provide to this as well. We've also asked the law department to take a look at this legislation. So they're currently reviewing, and I would be happy to come back to committee when there's an update from those parties at the local level. But as it stands today, staff has got the red line versions in front of you for you all to review. And as we look through this 4-month plus time horizon for the administration to bring back a plan, I think that provides adequate time for alignment, not only from an administrative standpoint, but also from a code. Because I've had some conversations with directors that say, sounds great, but in theory or in practice, what if somebody found a gap? How do we address those gaps? So that's where we are today. Extremely excited to move forward on this and, continue those conversations. So, commissioners, I want to get I would love your feedback at this time, and, we'll go from there.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming back and sharing that additional information we didn't get an opportunity to hear a couple weeks back. Before I ask my 1 or 2 questions, committee members, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Allen? Commissioner Johnson?
I do. For the red line document on page 5, item, I guess, 8D, where it talks about when the business goes to renew their license, the documentation that will be required to be submitted. Have we thought about who will be reviewing those documents, and how will they know if what they're seeing is accurate? Just curious on that process.
So one of the great things that commissioners, I believe multiple commissioners have provided in terms of potential policy is the line right above it, where it says the county shall maintain a registry of tire handling businesses to assist in proactive enforcement and the auditing of quarterly reports. This registry could be provided in the form of a portal, where the current state is that tire handling companies are supposed to mail in quarterly reports to the county, to the Director of Public Works. That's a bit of an archaic model because mailing in is very cumbersome, time-consuming, et cetera. So if a portal were created, and I believe the city of Atlanta has one for solid waste management, and Gwinnett County has a portal as well for solid waste management. Maybe not for specifically tires, but we've seen a couple of best practices in that area. That portal would feed into, 1, having a dedicated list, and then 2, when it comes to the issuance of renewal of business licenses, which is what planning sustainability, that's a division within planning P&S, they would be the ones to, 1, renew the business licenses, but we'd also need to discuss internally whether or not we want to keep it all within that shop or also have an opportunity for multiple departments to have eyes on this. So if there was a tire czar somewhere or a program coordinator who would help audit this information that could, go between different departments, I think we should keep it flexible in such. The main thing is having a portal and dedicated list, and then the enforcement of that list, secondly.
Good. I like that idea because my thought being that this is a different type of business license, so that professional who's normally does the business license review may not know if they're looking at something fraudulent or however that case may be. So I like the idea of fleshing that out more and probably getting more than one department involved in the
Absolutely.
review
It could be a
process.
dual review process.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
I just wanted to ask a question to kind of piggyback off of what you were just saying. Considering that we did just recently receive an email from the Office of OIIA requesting of commissioners, if there are any audits we would like to see, would this be something in the purview, Mr. Lavoie, of your office annually? Not on here it says on a quarterly basis, but annually, that you guys can go in and audit?
I mean, it definitely could be, but of course, we'd have to look at the risk level, how much money is involved, and also in terms of.
You know we need you to come up here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're going to
It's
sit
not
right
his
in the
first
front so I
rodeo.
can see you and think of the question.
I apologize for that. It definitely could be something that we would consider. Of course, we do have to balance it with other risk areas within the county and the resources that are available and really assess what the impact of this program would be. I know there's far more than just the financial aspect of it. You know, of course, there's environmental impact of it as well, but it is definitely something that falls within our purview.
Okay. And Mr. Allen, can we extend that conversation just to see how it could add value to this document?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Well, wonderful.
We're in the process of setting up several conversations with relevant departments, and we'll certainly include OIA for their consideration.
Okay, awesome. And were you finished? I'm sorry. Did you have something?
Yeah, and it's my understanding from what you were asking, or is it my understanding from what you was asking, that he would monitor the effectiveness of it? I mean, audit. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, audit the effectiveness of it. Is that what?
That
What do
could
you-
be a component
what-
of it, absolutely, because it was a couple things mentioned. One, some gaps, and I think they would be
Yeah.
great suitors to help evaluate those gaps through looking at that information regularly, but also just maintain, not that they would maintain the records or anything, but because in line item 8 on, I don't know what page this is, because it suggests auditing quarterly, I was thinking being experts in auditing, they could do annually to help support, to make sure those records are accurately kept. Because a lot of times when we come back, there are missed steps in which you've shown through your audits, the records aren't up to par as they should be, which makes it difficult for us to be effective in our regulation or management of these new processes that we implement.
Okay. You know, I would like to say, first of all, you know, the ordinance is not complete because we had talked about a czar coming in to manage the portal. Because if it's a portal, there's going to be numerous things that a possible czar would do. So I would suggest that we first complete what our proposed ordinance would be, and then bring it back for discussion, because picking a piece of it is not going to show the whole intent behind the purpose and intent of the ordinance.
And the czar may be something that the administration is going to come back with, because I think that gets into more of policy and the addition of new roles and responsibilities that would be managed by them. But just to get a little bit of input, I was asking Mr. Allen to have that conversation, because just looking at this, you may have some suggestions based on some of the other reports that you've shared with us.
Of course.
Thank you, sir. Were you finished? Or did you have something else, Commissioner Davis
Well,
Johnson?
I mean, that's fine, but I would really like for us to have an opportunity to present the proposed ordinance for everyone's review and input on it, because this is not it. I mean,
Understood.
this was, yeah.
Did you have something also, Commissioner Patrick?
Just actually wanted to say thank you to Mr. Allen
Yeah.
for his work to date
I
on
meant to
this.
say that.
Anytime we have a policy discussion at the Board of Commissioners that takes 2 meetings, I think is a big thing. So I want to say thank you very much, Marcus, for putting this together. And I know that there were a lot of ideas that were initially put forward, and you've sort of refined on the way, as well as talked with other components of the county government on what's functional. So thank you for getting us to where we are right now. And then we will be looking, hopefully, for any comments from commissioners on what's been proposed right here. And of course, want to acknowledge the administration. We need them to ultimately enforce it. So we'll look for support for CEO's office on that as well. But this has been a big task, a big project. My main concern when I first saw these dumped over in the Doraville area was if these caught fire, nobody is going to want to live in that neighborhood. And having had experience at the municipal level, working with building permits for meth houses and crack houses, there's really no good standard that talks about the point at which all of the chemicals have been removed from the house and it's safe to move back in. And this is even if you take the house down to the studs. And so my concern has always been, if a tire dump were to catch on fire, it gets brought into someone's air conditioning system or HVAC system. What's the long-term impact on that house, on that community, and then the viability of that neighborhood as it is? So those have always been my concerns, and thank you for helping us address them. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Commissioner Terry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With all due respect to my colleagues, what I heard just now from every one of y'all was a rehashing of what we have talked about for the last 6 months. I don't know why we're talking about tire czars. We literally had this conversation 4 months ago. The tire czar is the Public Works Director. I mean, I don't even know why we're talking about it, because Zach literally said, we don't need a tire czar. The ordinance makes the Public Works Director in charge of enforcing this ordinance. We've had these redlined ordinance changes since early fall, but because business licenses go out the beginning of the year, everything we're talking about is for 2027. I mean, and if we come to committee meetings and we don't do any homework or pre-work before we get here, we just talk about the same thing over and over again, and then nothing gets done. So my suggestion for any committee chair moving forward is you have to have the meeting before the meeting. You have to talk to your committee members, you have to talk to Zach, and when we come to a committee meeting, we have to make a decision. Because what we have done over the last 6 months is talk about the same thing over and over again. And I know it requires work, and some of y'all are part-time, some of y'all are full-time, but if we literally have the same discussions at committee every month and we don't actually pass anything, they're not gonna do anything, nothing's gonna change. Everything that we have done on tires in the last 18 months has been, we're gonna pay to clean them up. That's literally the only thing I could tell my constituents. What are you doing about tire dumps? Well, we passed $500,000 for Home Depot to clean up tire dumps. That's all I can say. And I mean, Marcus, God bless you, man. You've given us these ordinance changes, early fall. So if we had just acknowledged that, yeah, it makes sense that someone should keep a registry. I don't know why the law department can't just say, yeah, registry is legal, makes sense, and we could have passed it. And then literally right now, we could be sending out business license notices that tell all the scrap tire generators, you have to start sending in your reports. Now, can we fully enforce it right away? No, but that's okay. Start with the law, start with the process, and work your way from there. But at this point now, I mean, I think all the business license renewals have been mailed out, right, Zach? So, I mean, like everything we're talking about, we just can't do anything about until next year.
Commissioner Terry, if you're not finished, I'm gonna ask you to wrap up because we do have a presentation after this and we're running short on time. But I will say it goes, what we've been doing in committee, we haven't seen what was presented today. That's a part of why it has been extended, but we're doing more than just discussing what we can do locally. We're discussing statewide advocacy as well. We're discussing policy and what can be implemented with the CEO's office. So there's multiple components that have been discussed. And there's actually a policy statement that was recently shared with us. So I know there's one component of it you're ready to move forward. That's completely understandable. We're all excited about it, but our conversation is bigger than that. So what I would say, because Commissioner Patrick did propose it, we want to make sure we're addressing the concerns that he initiated. And once we do see that most of those are addressed, in addition to what committee members have added to the conversation, we will move forward with something that we can actually implement, and the community can see the progress and work. So I appreciate all of the work. I understand that it takes time, and we're going to move on it. I do have a couple of questions just to get more insight about the support we can get outside of just what we do at the county level.
Yes.
Have we been receiving the $75,000 each year that support from the state?
To my understanding, DeKalb County has been receiving the STAR grant whenever it's applied for. It's a reimbursement grant, so whenever mass cleanups are needed, transporting of tires, we meet that from a cap, but then we also, the need extends far greater. So again, one of the issues that we've run into is more funding is needed for additional reimbursement, and that's what the ask has been from a state perspective. But every time that I know of that the county's applied, there haven't been major hurdles to receiving that grant. So that is a little bit of a boon back to the taxpayer. But again, this is an issue where we're subsidizing the scrap tire dumpers, with taxpayer funds. And that's the challenge, right? So we really have to address that. That's the biggest issue here.
And then on page 19, where you mentioned code or Title 16, which states that when the state gets involved, the fine can be up to, but not to exceed $25,000 and some other penalty. Would we have to get involved with initiating the support, or would that have to just come down from the state based on whatever they're tracking when it comes to tires? Dumping, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am. It could be both. When a mass tire dumping site is found, or if a violator is, caught, and that's the first aspect. They have to, public safety has to get involved, and it's more of a legal question as well. But there's so much that DeKalb County can do from a local perspective. If a tire dumping site does exceed a certain cap, from a court perspective, it can be sent up, through the district attorney or through, additional courts of competent jurisdiction, and they can file, grievances and, punishment at that level that's acceptable. So there's that the county can do to send up court cases. And then from a state perspective, if dumps are found on state right-of-way, memorial drives of the world that are, state highways, then they can prosecute from there and not necessarily include the local aspect. So, it's both.
Okay. So, and to the administration, when you come up with your policy strategy in June, I would like to see us actually capitalize on this Title 16 opportunity to get support, so where we can escalate or elevate our concerns, because like you mentioned before, Mr. Allen, we're number 4, I believe, the 4th largest county in the state. So our tire concern doesn't look like the other 155 counties. So if they have the legislation here to support us, I want us to have a pipeline to actively use it, which will take some of the pressure off of the things that we do locally, considering, $1,000 to some people isn't but a drop in a bucket. So if you can include that as a form of support. And then on page 20, when you were talking about some of the observations and recommendations, are we working with ACCG on some of these to get that countywide, statewide support?
The CEO's office has been working in conjunction with our state legislative partners, including Dan Baskerville as well, to address this at the state level. That request is currently, again, that's in your legislative packet, and I think those conversations are happening actively. And I just had a conversation with somebody from the CEO's office who kind of confirmed that. But again, they're looking for alignment and making sure that what continues to move forward is in alignment with the BOC, the CEO's office, as well as the other relevant parties that will need to be involved in this. But again, from a state legislative perspective, there's so much that we can do at a local level. From a state perspective, this addresses this and gets that conversation out the door. So I'm confident that we'll have our partners take it from there.
And I would say with that, my last comment is to the commissioners. What we can do locally when it comes to Public Works or the Public Works Director, I would describe it as a quick fix. We do need to get more engaged statewide for sustainability and longevity. And so I would like to see our commissioners, including myself, get on ACCG committees so that we can advocate for these things to be a part of the priority legislative lists. And so that we know we actively have, even though we have advocates, us being on those committees will help as well. So with that, are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? No? Oh, I thought you were saying yes. Okay. Yes. Because I believe Commissioner Patrick, did you have something you wanted them to come back with? I can't remember if you stated something specific.
Well, there were some markups that were added to from the initial review from Marcus, and so if committee members or all the commissioners could just look at the new red lines, any comments or opinions, please share those with Mr. Allen, and then we'll get those incorporated, and whatever the reasonable time frame is to bring it back with a legal review in advance, and then that way, when it's ready, it's ready.
Okay. And I will state for purpose, I'm good with the red lines. I said what my concerns are. So I don't think we need an extended period of time to bring it back and make a decision, but I will defer to the recommendation of the committee.
Don't forget legal, they got.
Right.
Yes, of
They
course,
gotta
legal. That's
make it work.
automatic.
So at a minimum, possibly a 30-day review for legal to go over some of those aspects, at a minimum?
Yeah, that works.
I think that's reasonable.
So a motion to defer item 2025-0683 for 30 days with a prior stop in ERPS.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, we're right at time. Do we have 10 minutes?
I think we can do 10 minutes. If that gets you to, we'll say 3:45, then let's say 3:55, we anticipate starting PWI, if that works.
Okay, and I don't think it would take that long. All right, so the last thing that we do have, and thank you so much for that, Commissioner Patrick. The last thing that we do have on our agenda is our animal shelter operations audit. So we are extremely limited in time. We're cutting into PWI. So if we can try to keep the presentation to about 7 minutes. Yes, come on up.
Thank you, Commissioners, for inviting me today. I think I know most of you, but maybe you don't know me. My name's Rebecca Gwynn. I am the CEO and founder of Lifeline Animal Project. And Lifeline is the vendor that manages DeKalb County Animal Services, the shelter operations. We also provide some community initiatives through county funding. We have managed the shelter. This is our 14th year. Prior to managing the shelter, we're also providing veterinary services within the shelter under the county's management. That contract was in 2009 that started. So we've been partners with DeKalb County and the animal shelter for a long time. I'm here today to address a portion of the presentation that Mr. Campbell gave. And so it's kind of a little awkward because I'd like to address his full presentation, but he hasn't given it yet. So we can talk about the information that he's presented so far. I can come back another time. I do believe y'all have his full report. You also have a report done by the National Center for Animal Shelter Evaluations, which is the kind of raw material for Mr. Campbell's report. I believe you have our response, you have the management response, and you have a shorter response that I supplied to you through Chief Lumpkin. So you have a lot of material, but I don't know, I also know that you have an awful lot on your plate, so I don't know how much you've been able to get through it. And if you want me to come back, I'm happy to do that. But I understand we're limited for time. I'm going to assume this is a clicker for
It is.
presentation.
And I want to clarify, you're here to respond directly to his comments or to the assessment?
Well, the same, because he has taken the assessment and summarized it for you. So it's my response is geared towards his summary. We did a full response that we submitted to the county to the assessment. The assessment was 120 pages. We supplied I think it was about a 27, 28-page response to that assessment. So we can hit on anything that comes up for you. If you've had a chance to review those materials, I can touch on some of the high points that Mr. Campbell identified within the assessment as critical, and so that we can address those for you first. And then there are other issues, I think. One thing to keep in mind is the assessment was done in September of 2024. So it is a year and a half almost old at this point, and conditions have substantially changed. We've made changes. The county has made even more changes. So we've made some improvements, but I think we need to just back up a little bit, and I want to talk to you about it somewhat.
Okay, so, and before
Okay.
you get started, I just want to say, I know you've already prepared for this, but as you speak, I think you should try to direct your comments to the assessment, because like you said, that was done over a year ago, and you guys have made improvements since that time. And I
Correct.
think that's what we'd really like to hear since the assessment has come out, what your response has been in order to address some of those actual or perceived concerns.
Okay. I want to absolutely want to do that, and I think we've made some tremendous progress, both in our operations, but also the progress that the county's made. So, but I want to draw your attention to something that's really critical about the way this assessment was constructed. In animal welfare, there are conflicting philosophies of operations. There is what is often referred to as no-kill, and that is a operational philosophy that says, that we adhere to, that says if an animal's life can be saved, an animal who comes into the shelter can be saved, that animal should be saved. As an organization, we consider that our obligation. Now, in DeKalb County in 2017, you adopted the exact same framework, and it is recognized nationally as saving approximately 90% of the animals who come into the shelter. There are going to be animals who come in who cannot be saved. They're going to be either behaviorally too far gone or medically too far gone. But the idea behind our shelter, the DeKalb County shelter, and really any public municipal shelter, is it's an open admission. Every animal that needs to come in can come in, must come in, and then we have an obligation to save that animal's life. And that's an obligation that we take as an organization. It's our mission, but it's also an obligation that the county has committed to through the no-kill resolution. And actually, it's also in our contract. Our contract specifically says that Lifeline can euthanize an animal only when absolutely necessary for the health or well-being of the animal. So, absolutely necessary. So we are limited in how much we use euthanasia as a population control tool, and that's on purpose. That's by design. That's what we believe, and that's what the county has, the mandate the county has given us, contractually obligated us to. So our emphasis is on life-saving. Our emphasis is on life-saving programs, it's on prevention, it's on building our capacity to accommodate the number of animals coming in. The evaluation, the shelter assessment, was done by an individual who does not share that operating philosophy. And I'm not, well, I think it is obvious where I fall in my preference of the philosophy, but the idea is that the shelter population must be controlled in order to provide humane care, and that population must be controlled. If you can't control anything else, and you can't because you can't control the number of animals coming in. So the only metric that you have within your control is euthanasia. Now, we've rejected that operating model. We always have, the entire contract. We do not want to employ euthanasia for population control except when absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. And that means we got to be completely over our skis. We have to be completely over our heads, and to get to the point where we and we alert the community that we're going to euthanize for space if we don't get help. And the community has responded. I think a lot of you get emails around everyone in this community is stepping up to save lives. And we've been very successful. This year in 2025, we did achieve the 90% save rate. So we did achieve the no-kill save rate. Our intake in 2025 is 30% higher over the last 2 years. So that's 30% more animals. We're taking in more animals actually than we ever have into the DeKalb shelter. So the evaluator's premise, he treats the life-saving focus and humane care as mutually exclusive. In other words, you cannot focus on life-saving if you're not euthanizing for population control and provide humane care. And he explicitly states that in his evaluation when he lists the weaknesses of our organization. He's promoting increased euthanasia for population control. And he actually faults Lifeline for prioritizing life-saving, that he blames our prioritization of life-saving for some of the problems that we have in the shelter. So the bottom line for us, and I think it's something that it's really important to be clear about, is that the programs and solutions that Lifeline has put forth really need to be evaluated with the no-kill framework that we're contractually and, in my opinion, morally obligated to operate under, not the euthanasia population control model. I can't overemphasize the animosity between these two operating models. It's the equivalent of having, I hate to use a political metaphor, but it's the equivalent of having the Republican Party evaluate and present as objective evaluation the Affordable Care Act. There's just, the two philosophies are just diametrically opposed. So given that, I want to look at some of the specific things that Mr. Campbell found as most significant in the report.
We have a question, and I am
sure.
going to say we're 3 minutes until our time. We'll be 15 minutes into the next meeting. So I'm going to let Commissioner Davis Johnson ask her question, and then we're going to have to wrap up so we can get to PWI. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, if, okay, you're a part on the no-kill, is it any preventative birth that you look at, like spading the?
Spaying and neutering, absolutely, Commissioner. The county has funded that to a certain extent in 2025. We have a current proposal in front of you. Well, I don't know if it's in front of you or not, but we have a current proposal to the county to dramatically expand that. It's on my last slide as a solution that we can look at. Because this is not our problem. The number of animals in the shelter is not Lifeline's problem. It's a DeKalb County problem.
I understand.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that there's an incentive for that they don't have
It's free.
to pay. Yeah.
Correct. It's free, yes.
Okay.
And we did 1,000 free surgeries last year for DeKalb County citizens.
Okay, thank you. And Zach, I would
Some of this is self-explanatory, but there are a couple of things I'd really like to just touch on very briefly, Commissioner, if I could have about 60 more seconds.
The next committee meeting has to start. He gave us an additional 15 minutes. But I will say one of the reasons I asked you to just speak to the assessment, because what you shared with us so far, we understand. We do. We understand the no-kill. We understand the position of the person that did the assessment. And we take all of that into consideration. We know what the capacity of the shelter is, which is why we voted to approve the pet neighborhood. That looks absolutely amazing. And so we just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk through some of your responses. We did get them on paper, but sometimes things get lost in translation and print. And so we just wanted you to be able to share. What we're going to have to do is just allow you another opportunity to come to another meeting and share, probably after we've completed the presentation with Mr. Lavoie, because things could get mixed up if we continue to go back and forth. But did you want to say something really quickly?
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, and I was kind of going to summarize, I think, we've hit the nail on the head in terms of what the issues, there's a philosophical issue that was articulated by Ms. Gwynn. But at the end of the day, the original audit, it showed a number of issues, and, there's levels of debate, but the fact is, the facility has been historically overcrowded, right? So what we have done, thanks to the governing authority's investments, we have done certain preventative measures like investing in spaying and neutering efforts, actually giving away food so that people will keep their pets. Sometimes it gets unaffordable. So we'll be offering more things like that in the 2026 budget, because we recognize we have to do things to keep the pets at home, because once they get into the shelter, they stay much longer than they would like. You mentioned the pet neighborhood, that's a critical one. There's still additional funding in SPLOST 2 for additional expansion, which will be necessary. So those are the types of things that are needed. I think the germane lessons to be learned from the audit, notwithstanding some potential, different philosophies or different bias, we're taking action on those facility-related issues, those operational-related issues, and we're going to be investing in prevention. I think all of those things combined will make things much better for our pets as we go forward. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And for any future invitations that you may, either of you may receive when you come back, we're especially interested in knowing what's urgent, what's needed to address that concern, and how the board specifically can support that, because I know we can offer funding for you to go and do the work, but we need to be in the know of what's needed in order to support the initiative forward. So we would like that to be the focus, and understand we know that you're working hard. You don't have to defend that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, with that, do we have a motion to go ahead and allow PWI to do what they do best?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you, sir.